This is definitely an underrated hidden gem, and you can't even find a single breakout level recap of it anywhere online. Just by looking at the title, I bet 90% of people would assume it's a cheesy fairy tale about a mermaid, but they have no idea that its true core is far more powerful than they could ever imagine. It's not a romance movie at all, but a story about learning to say goodbye. And its stars are today's Hollywood scream queen Emma Roberts and the former American pop sensation Joanna. This is the fantasy comedy released in 2006, and although it may not carry deep artistic ambition, it precisely captures the softest part of every girl's heart during her teenage years, and it makes me revisit it every summer without fail. So today, please join me as we step into this warm and magical seaside town and experience this emotional feast together. The story begins with a countdown to a goodbye, because Claire's only friend Haley will be leaving after summer break, and that means this could very well be the last summer they spend together. Since Haley's mother is a marine biologist, she often moves from place to place for work and brings Haley with her, but this makes Haley feel extremely distressed because she has to constantly adapt to new environments.
No, you didn't want to leave Boston either, remember? And look what happened. You met Claire. Australia could be another amazing adventure for us, Hales.
So how about I live here with Claire till I'm 18?
How about we go back to fewer syllables?
Cool.
Clearly, Haley is powerless against all of this, and all she can do is make wishes using popcorn.
Insane!
O gods of hurricanes, makers of thunder and lightning and majestical waves, use of your power to keep my mom from moving to Australia. Ameneth.
But unexpectedly, the moment Claire imitates Haley's gesture, something magical happens, as a sudden storm sweeps across the entire town and a huge change is about to follow. The next morning, the outside world is a complete mess, but the two girls are thrilled because at least Haley doesn't have to rush to move away for now. However, right at that moment, Claire notices that something seems to be inside the pool, and she gathers her courage to step closer, but she ends up falling straight into the pool. In the dim water, she seems to see a face, and it frightens her horribly, but luckily Raymond rescues her. Raymond is the lifeguard at Claire's family's swim club, and both girls are deeply drawn to him. And when Haley sees Claire being carried out in his arms, she becomes overly excited, pulls Claire aside, and immediately starts gossiping.
Raymond totally jumped in there to save you with his actual biceps. Did you feel them around you? Were they flexed?
But Claire is still shaken, and she has no mind to care about any of this.
I swear, it just stared at me with its eyes. You're in shock from touching Raymond.
Haley, I know what I saw.
To uncover the truth, they agree to return to the pool at 9 p.m. that night. Night quietly descends and the pool's surface is eerily calm, but unexpectedly Haley takes out a small can of fish. Yet the water remains still, and Haley begins to think Claire must have seen wrong.
And it wasn't kelp.
Huh?
I saw hair.
But just as they start arguing, a hand reaches out.
There's nothing too!
I bet I know what it was. What is going on?
Stop shrieking like a couple of gulls.
They cannot believe what they're seeing, but driven by curiosity, they manage to exchange a few simple words with the mermaid, and the mermaid expresses friendliness toward them. Yet the manager suddenly hears a noise, and to keep the secret hidden, they agree to come back the next morning. But when they wake up, they discover that the pool has been completely drained. They rush downstairs to search for the mermaid, and thankfully they find her in the storage room.
Just about got turned inside out.
How did you get in here?
I use these. Whoa.
To avoid trouble, Haley takes off her own t-shirt for her to wear.
That's not what you do. You have to
No. Put your arms through.
put your arms through them. You know what I mean?
No.
No. Oh.
Seeing the disguised mermaid, the girls are delighted, and the mermaid is very satisfied with her new look. Thinking the human world is wonderfully beautiful, the mermaid's name is Aquamarine, and she left home to escape a marriage arranged by her father. And she even made a bet with him that if she could find true love on land within 3 days, she could break off the arranged marriage. Time is running out and the challenge is overwhelming, because her legs will turn back into a tail whenever the moonlight appears or when she touches water. But to prove herself to her father, Aquamarine decides to try anyway.
If you don't have love, how do you know it exists?
I saw it once, and I want it.
Right at that moment, Raymond's graceful figure completely captures her attention. Although Haley and Claire are reluctant, they cannot stop her, and after seeing Aquamarine's straightforward confession get rejected by Raymond, the kind girls begin to feel guilty for her, and when they hear Aquamarine say that if they help her succeed, she can grant them any wish, they immediately put aside their feelings for Raymond and decide to help Aquamarine without hesitation. But the real challenge is only beginning. To catch Raymond's attention, Claire and Haley bring Aquamarine along and ride bicycles past Raymond's house again and again. But the moment Raymond notices them, Aquamarine unexpectedly falls off the bike, and Raymond rushes over and even tries to clean her injury. But Aquamarine strongly refuses, so he can only put on a bandage for her, and the atmosphere slowly turns warm. But just as Claire and Haley feel victorious, a huge problem quietly appears.
Who ordered room service?
Hi, Raymond. I'm here for my driving lesson.
The wealthy heiress Cecilia jumps in to cause trouble, and she clearly admires Raymond too. And to defeat this strong rival, Claire and Haley must use their secret weapon, so they bring Aquamarine along to read through all sorts of romance magazines and train her to memorize everything written inside. And this ridiculous tactic surprisingly helps Aquamarine score her first small victory. Aquamarine's cheerful and genuine personality gradually sparks Raymond's interest as well, and they go on a date at the local fair and share cotton candy, and the romantic tension rises instantly. But just when everything is going well, a bigger crisis is approaching. At this moment, Aquamarine accidentally notices the water bikes on the other side, and to make her happy, Raymond immediately takes her to try them out. Although everything feels wonderful and the sun is about to set, the two of them drift farther and farther away from the shore, and Aquamarine has no choice but to use all her strength to paddle desperately toward land. Meanwhile, Claire and Haley on the shore are even more anxious than she is, and all of this leaves Raymond confused since he has no idea what is happening. He even excitedly invites Aquamarine to the beach party, but fortunately, in the chaos, Aquamarine manages to reach the shore just in time.
That was too close. I need some water to spend the night in. How about the ocean? No ocean. My father would just manipulate the currents and pull me back home. I know a place.
To help her, they go to a water tower, which seems like the perfect place for Aquamarine to stay. But as time slowly slips away, Claire and Haley begin to feel sorrow as well.
Do you think he'll fall in actual love with her in 2 days?
He has to. It's her last hope.
This is not only Aquamarine's final hope, but also the bond of friendship between Claire and Haley that they cannot bear to lose. To win over Raymond as quickly as possible, they take Aquamarine to the mall the next day to carefully choose an outfit for the beach party, and this also becomes the first shopping trip of Aquamarine's life. As she wanders around like a child entering a candy store with a sparkle in her eyes unlike anything before, the three of them excitedly pick out the clothes they love and return home joyfully. But only then do they realize they forgot to choose earrings. Yet Aquamarine suddenly has an idea and takes them to the beach. All this time, Aquamarine has been using small starfish as earrings.
Live starfish? That's what you wear for earrings?
Because those tiny creatures secretly whisper compliments to her beside her ears.
They love to give compliments. But it's nice when you need a little boost.
But this task can only be done by Haley because Claire's parents drowned in a sailing accident, which caused Claire to develop an intense fear of water, so she can only wait on shore with Aquamarine for Haley to return. During their conversation, she suddenly learns that the eternal love story Aquamarine mentioned is actually about her own parents.
Claire, they really loved each other. I don't think they would have wanted you to be afraid of life. I think they would have wanted you to be friends with it.
In that moment, a seed wrapped in courage quietly begins to grow in Claire's heart, and soon Haley successfully retrieves the starfish. And just when everything seems ready, Cecilia's follower suddenly appears and coldly announces to Aquamarine that Raymond has already invited Cecilia to the final beach party. Aquamarine is instantly overwhelmed, and she doubts whether she chose the wrong person, even wanting to give up and return home to accept her fate. But Claire refuses to believe this and refuses to admit defeat, so she decides to split up and take action with Haley.
You're gonna go stop Aqua, and I'm gonna go find Raymond, okay? Meet me back at the club as soon as possible. Hurry! Go!
Haley quickly catches up to Aquamarine, but at this moment Aquamarine feels that they only helped her to fulfill their own wish until Haley, choking with emotion, reveals the pain she has been burying deep inside.
Let me tell you something. My dad said he loved me. He said he loved my mother, and then he left us. He left us for some other woman. But I guess that's just the way it is, and love doesn't always work.
Aquamarine finally realizes that everything in this world is full of change, and people must live with hope. But at this time Claire also rushes to the pool party and directly asks Raymond why he gave up on Aquamarine, only to learn that Cecilia lied and claimed Aquamarine already had a boyfriend. It turns out everything was just a misunderstanding, and Raymond decides to return with Claire to explain everything to Aquamarine. But he has no idea that Aquamarine is currently relaxing in Claire's bathtub, soothing her heartbreak with delicious snacks. Yet in the next second everything changes.
Oh gosh!
How's it going? In a sec. But Raymond wants to talk to you.
The truth finally comes to light and the misunderstanding is completely resolved. And Raymond chooses Aquamarine to join him at the final beach party. And when Aquamarine appears before him in her flowing long dress, no words are needed. The party begins quickly, and seeing Raymond and Aquamarine dancing sweetly, Cecilia tries to rush forward, but Haley and Claire block her path. Yet none of them know that a far bigger crisis is approaching. As sunset falls again, Aquamarine prepares to leave early once more, but Raymond wants to keep her by his side a little longer.
I want to spend more time with you. What can I say to make you stay?
You can tell me tomorrow. Tomorrow you can tell me. Come to the pier at 9 o'clock.
I'll tell you what.
Seeing them share a gentle kiss, Haley and Claire exchange a smile, but unexpectedly, as they escort Aquamarine back to the water tower, they are followed by Cecilia and her group. After waiting for a long time, the follower wants to return to the party to see the fireworks, but Cecilia harshly stops her, then climbs the water tower alone and unexpectedly discovers the secret of Aquamarine's tale. Frightened, a wild idea suddenly forms in her mind, and she quickly locks the iron gate, destroys the ladder, rushes back to the party, and tells her friends what she saw, but no one believes her. To expose everything, she calls her father who works at a TV station and lies that she heard a girl crying for help near the water tower the previous night, and her father immediately contacts the media. At this moment, Haley is preparing for the move, and as she looks at her mother's busy figure, she feels torn and even begins to waver, so she finds Claire and gently expresses her thoughts. But Claire firmly believes Aquamarine will help them fulfill their wish and that Haley will not leave and they will not be separated. Just then, the TV begins broadcasting the water tower rescue, and Claire and Haley rush over, but soon the firefighters bring down only a dolphin toy, and the entire crowd bursts into laughter, while Cecilia's face turns pale and she repeatedly accuses Haley and Claire in front of the camera. Faced with his daughter's behavior, her father believes everything is Cecilia's prank and leaves in anger, yet no one knows that Aquamarine has already been rescued by the club's security guard, who had discovered their secret long ago, and Aquamarine is full of gratitude toward him, and once safe she hurries to meet Raymond.
I thought about you all night.
Good.
Yeah. So, what was it that you, wanted to tell me?
When she softly asks him about love, Raymond is stunned for a moment, as he truly likes Aquamarine, but in only 3 days he cannot yet express love so easily.
I mean, we've had one date.
But you don't love me.
Suddenly, Cecilia rushes out from the shadows and pushes Aquamarine into the ocean. The weather changes instantly, and Aquamarine's tail appears in the waves as the turbulent water tries to pull her away. And to save Aquamarine, the water-terrified Claire breaks through all her fear and leaps into the icy water with Haley tightly holding her hand. They swim desperately toward Aquamarine as the huge waves crash again and again, but the three girls never give up. and Haley and Claire choke back tears as they say they are willing to give all their wishes to Aquamarine. Hearing the voices of her closest friends, Aquamarine is moved to tears.
What more could you do for me? You jumped in the water to save me, and now you'd give me your wish? Why would you do that for me?
Because we love you, Aqua.
And the moment her tears fall into the sea, the sky suddenly clears. It turns out love is never limited to romantic feelings, and the sincere friendship between them is the deepest form of love. And the film comes to its end. Looking back at the entire story, I realize that true friendship does not mean forcing each other to stay, but that even if separated by great distances, they still trust that they remain in each other's hearts. And although Haley eventually leaves the town, her friendship with Claire will never fade. The most surprising part of this movie is not the ending where Haley leaves, but that it uses the shell of a romantic comedy to tell a story that is not about romance at all. And in 90 minutes it shows us that what saves the world is never a prince's kiss, but the moment Claire, trembling with fear of water, leaps into the storm for her friend. And when they cling to each other in the center of the whirlpool and shout that they love her, what truly carries us through the long years is often the unbreakable friendships that have nothing to do with romance. So if you ask me what growing up means, I think it means you no longer fear separation and you understand that love does not disappear but simply changes form and accompanies you into the future. Alright, that's the story for today. And may you enjoy wonderful love and even more lifelong friendship. And may you always be treated with kindness and feel joy without worry. And I'll see you next time. Bye.